Hey everyone, welcome back to Bow Books. I don't know if you can tell, but we've actually had some snow here in my neck of the woods. Our kitten, it's his first day in the snow. It started snowing yesterday, but it wasn't that great. We weren't sure about letting him out, but he's fine at the moment. So I kind of got inspired by my little sister recently. She's a teacher, and she was talking to her kids about books that mean a lot to them for whatever reason. It didn't necessarily have to be a storybook. She was talking about, I might have muffled that, sorry. She was talking about our grandparents' wedding album. But it made me think of a book that means a lot to me, and whenever the snow comes out in England like this, it makes me think of that story. So today I'm going to be talking about the Chronicles of Narnia, mostly The Lion, the Witch and the Wardrobe. So my mum actually married my stepdad when I was about 4. I was just turned 4. Like seriously, there's 4 days between my birthday, which was yesterday, and their wedding anniversary. So one of the first things my stepdad showed me when he first came in with us was The Lion, the Witch and the Wardrobe. So for me, it's a book that introduced my love of reading, but it bonded me with my stepdad because like that was our thing almost. We used to watch the BBC adaptations when they were showing. I think he'd recorded a few. He recorded the bit the bit with Aslan being slaughtered, he recorded over that to protect us. But I remember watching The Silver Chair live when it was showed, and loving the Voyage of the Dawn Treader. And whenever it snows like this, just makes me feel like I'm in Narnia. When I was younger, I used to go to school about 20 miles away from where we live, and I had to get like 3 buses. So I'd leave the house. Sorry, I've got hair everywhere. I'd leave the house at like 6:45 in the morning. I'd be one of the first people out, and I'd feel like I was walking in Narnia for the first time, like Lucy Pevensey, with the street lights and everything. So yeah, whenever it gets snowy, it gives me a nice childhood memory. You know, I read it to Noah when he was younger. I don't know if he remembers much of it. I do know that I edited a lot because things these days don't really like the stuff that was written in there. There's an entire nation called Calorman and stuff like that. It's stuff that in the 1950s people didn't really think about as much, so they weren't as critical of it all, especially if you were a white Irishman, like C.S.Lewis was. But yeah, these days it's something that, you know, he was too young to have that conversation with about that sort of thing. So I definitely feel like I'm in Narnia right now, and because it's not very thick, because it's thin, and it's kind of like, maybe Christmas is coming because the snow is thawing. So yeah, Aslan didn't bring me a sword this year. Did he bring you one? No. Maybe next year. No, I brought my ring light out for something else. I've got to stand now. Yeah, I forgot to mention as well with the whole Narnia thing, the thing that made it mean so much to me was that before my mum and my stepdad met, I was actually the youngest of 4 kids, and we go boy, girl, boy, girl. So when I got introduced, so cute. Sorry, I'm watching the cat. When we got introduced to Narnia, I kind of recognised me and my brothers and sister as Peter, Lucy, Edmund, and Susan. So yeah, it was kind of a good bonding experience, but also something. I think it was the first time I related to a book. I mean, it was one of the first books I ever really read anyway, that I remember. And I remember growing up just loving being in the library. Like, my stepdad was our head teacher for junior school, and I spent so much time in the library just hanging out with my brother or playing chess or reading all the books. I think that's where I found so many authors that I love, like I'm going to say it wrong, Saga, and Anna Martin and Judy Blume, who I met at Comic-Con one of my first times. I think even knowing now that like things that are put in the Chronicles of Narnia you wouldn't get away with it these days, there's still so much magic in there and so much relatable stuff, and I think it holds a special place in most people's hearts because, you know, it's got so much to it, like mystery and crime and loyalty and, you know, all these themes that kind of carry through. And yeah, I think that's why I love it so much. But yeah, sorry, it's hard to hear myself in my hood. Yeah, I think that's why I love it so much, and that's why when it gets snowy like this, I get all nostalgic for Narnia. And like, I don't think other books do it for me. Like, I've read some others, like I think I've read some of Let It Snow, which John Green was part of, and What Light by J. Asher, which was also at Christmas. But I don't think anything captures the magic that was Narnia, and just Snowfall in general captures the magic that was in that book, or vice versa. I mean, Snowfall came first, didn't it? But yeah, so I'm really happy at the moment. I don't actually like coming out in it unless I'm the first person. Like, all the tracks in the snow now make me really sad, but I think that's just my perfectionist element coming out. So yeah, Noah's back in class and I should be really supervising him, because otherwise he will just play on his phone all the time. Hey, welcome back. You may notice it's a completely different day, completely different location. The sun is streaming in. It's still February. It's like nearly 2 weeks since I last videotaped. It's been half time since that time, and there's been some stuff going on, so I'm really sorry for not uploading since. Also really sorry if my makeup looks dross, because it's been a struggle lately. But I wanted to carry on like the whole thing about books that really mean something to me, not necessarily because of the storyline, but because of how they came into my life. So the second book I wanted to cover, I don't actually have a copy of. It's called Tracey. Actually, I don't know. I just know it's Tracey Beaker. I think like everyone in England knows exactly what I'm talking about. It's probably got like a little bit more of a fancy name than that, but like The Story of Tracey Beaker or something, by Jacqueline. Like I said, I think a lot of people in England really love Jacqueline Wilson. They really love Tracey Beaker in particular. I was about 8, I think, when it got published. My older sister got a copy, and by that time I was already so obsessed with reading, and she wasn't so big on it, but it was her book, so we didn't always get along at the time, and she was like, you're not reading my book, so I used to sneak it and read it. So for me that was kind of like the first book where, you know, I was told I wasn't allowed to read it, and I did anyway, so that kind of has a bit of a meaning to me. I get on well with my sister now, but at the time, I'm really sorry by the light as well. Sorry, like, the sun is right there, right in front of the camera. And I don't know why it's doing this split there. I don't know. Yeah. Anyway, so I think that was my favourite. I remember getting The Suitcase Kid out of the library not long after Crystal got that book, because like, by then I was already sold on Jacqueline Wilson's writing. I actually have her latest book. I still get her books. I've got, you know, the most recent Tracey Beaker ones, The Beaker Girls, with her daughter. And I really loved the Girls in Love ones, and the one I got recently is a bit like that. Love Frankie. I think it's a lesbian story. Like, Jacqueline Wilson, as most people in England will tell you, deals with so many difficult topics. So, like, you know, Tracey Beaker was raised in care. The Suitcase Kid was about a girl whose parents had split up, and she spent half the week with her mum, half the week with her dad. She didn't really like any of the step siblings she now had. You know, there's been like the bread and breakfast style, where she's technically homeless. So stuff like that. So like, it's really good, like dealing with hard topics, but for children. And she usually has Nick Sherratt illustrate, and his cartoons look so simple, but they're so hard to copy, especially when you're he's just illustrated the numbers. No illustrations for this one, just grown up one. I'm pretty sure somewhere it says it's like the Girls in Love books. Anyway, so then there's that one. I've read a lot of the Babysitters Club growing up as well. Someone gave me Boy Crazy Stacey and The Truth About Stacey for my 9th birthday. And I've been collecting them and reading them since. Like, I didn't have very much pocket money growing up, but like, I could buy one of those every so often. And then the next book that really made a difference was Pride and Prejudice, this actual copy. As you can see, I've kind of busted the spine. I've read it so much. this kind of was a big deal for me. My 9 gave it to me. So like I said before in The Lion, the Witch and the Wardrobe stuff, that my stepdad gave me, like the passion for Narnia, really engaged me with it. When I first met 9, I thought that was her actual name, so I was like, oh cool, she's got a name that's a number. I didn't realise it was the Welsh word for gran. And she kind of became a big deal to me growing up. Like, if we were over there for dinner, I'd be like, I'm sitting next to 9. She had a piano. I kind of self-taught myself a little bit. I can play one-handed, very basic tunes on there. She had this like Disney storybook where I think that's where I've learnt the Song of the South. I've never actually watched the movie. I've just read her book. I think we've got it somewhere in the house now because unfortunately she passed. But I was so close to her growing up. And when I think it was the Christmas just before I was 17, she gave me this. We didn't really do Christmas presents, so I was really surprised and really like flattered to get it. But also like my only like interaction with classics before then had been at school, and my school like most schools just analysed them to death. So this was like the first classic where I just read and enjoyed, and you know, I pretty much only picked it up because of who gave it to me as well. I think Jane Austen in particular is really good for showing how society in her day actually kind of mirrors society now. Maybe not completely, but you know, on a social aspect, the way people interact with each other. Like, it might just be my interpretation, but when I was at school and they talked about things in history, it seemed like everyone was a farmer unless they were like lords or royalty or something, until they discovered factories, and then it was all factory stuff. And like, the older I get, the more I see like the nuances of society as a whole throughout history, and it's because of engaging in books like this. So this actually, like, it wasn't just a love of classics, it's a love of history that's come from a book like this. So I wish my 9 was still around to thank her for it. But yeah, as I said, it's completely battered, but it's tricky. I have now got the complete works of Jane Austen. I've just finished Sense and Sensibility as well, and the next one after that is Pride and Prejudice, so I'm going to give that one a skip just because I've read them before and read the rest. But in good time. I need a little bit of a mental break. I need fluff at the moment. So yeah, those I think are like the main stories I can think of that are really formative for me. Yeah, like I say, like I still love books. Like, the complete love of reading is there, but I think there are certain books that, you know, you connect to another person or another factor in your life, and it becomes significant because of that. So like, I know a lot of people say Harry Potter and stuff. For my son, I think a book called The Christmasaurus. Yeah, we both got a copy of The Christmasaurus by Tom Fletcher. I picked it up, like I picked up all of Tom and Dougie's books, because I'm a massive McFly fan. That light is really bothering me, I'm sorry. Yeah, so I'm a massive McFly fan, that's why I picked it up. But now I was about 6 or 7 when this came out, I think. Is it going to tell me the publishing date they usually do? 2016, no. It was 9. It was 9 when this came out, but we already had a love of the Dinosaur That Poop series. Oh, I'm so blinded by that light, sorry. So yeah, I think he really engaged with this story, and then just before Christmas, end of 2016 I think it was, they were doing a tour of the book. Like, Tom had written music, like this is the musical version. It did come with a CD tucked in somewhere, but I've taken that out. It's in my car. It has been played to death. So we went to see it live, and then we actually met Tom and Giovanna, and I think this is one of his favourite stories as well. And then Tom and Giovanna were actually at Yauk at Comic Con because they've started writing a young adult series called Eve of Man. I don't like their young adult books as much as their children's books, I'm afraid. but yeah, they were doing a signing there. So I got my copy of Even Man signed, and Noah got his copy of the Christmas Story signed, and had a chat. And we showed Tom like the photo when we met him just before the Christmas Saurus performance. So that was cool. And also, like, Noah really likes Tom Gates, and he's met Liz Pichon. I don't know how to say her last name. Like, she was doing this mini tour around the UK where kids could come. They'd see like a little reenactment of the book. They could interact. They could buy merchandise. They could meet her. So he did that. Like, he drew his own Tom Gates monsters and stuff. So that was pretty cool. And I hope like I've passed on that love of reading to him. He's in his Diary of a Wimpy Kid phase again. So yeah. But I'd love to know what people find, like what books have influenced other people. I always think like the stories that people have about the way they fall in love with books, or just stories in general, are just so fascinating. Oh my goodness. I'm slightly less minded over here. Sorry to have to move about a bit. So yeah, I think I'm going to leave this one here. Really appreciate any feedback. And that's about it. Thank you. See you next time. Bye.